He listens. I remember sitting down at breakfast, and not like your standard CEO who has to be the one who knows all the answers, but more the one who asks all the questions and then listens and then finds ways of connecting the dots. And I think that's very, very important for people who are working with a coach, who are developing, who really need to do things their way, but as he was saying this evening a little bit, need the guidance from the back seat, or to ask the right questions. I think this is a perfect fit for him. I'm glad that he has chosen to do this, and I wouldn't have missed coming to help him celebrate and kick this off for anything. He's starting a company called True Balance, and he is doing executive coaching, leadership development work, workshops, speaking, and coaching.
You know, as I look at Jay as not only as a business leader, but as somebody who's impacted my life, it comes down to really a lot of different categories. First off, he's somebody that always commands attention. So when I'm in a room with a lot of people, my personality always says, you know, try to be the smartest guy in the room. And something with Jay is always, you just sit back and you listen. You know, and often when I'm in a setting, whether it's like an incident like tonight or in others, I'm often distracted. And when Jay speaks, it's just, I hear him. And I don't get distracted. So he's always been somebody, and the only other person in my life who's been able to, you know, anywhere come close to that was my father, who was a huge influence in my life, similar to how Jay's father was in his. Even when I worked for Jay, you know, his advice was unbiased to what was beneficial to our business. In some cases, obviously, when we were talking about business, it was, you know, brass tacks, let's get it done, what do we have to do? But when it came to me, it was, you know, these are some things that you need to think about. And, you know, some of them, you know, could have been perceived as good for Christian, not great for business, not great for career, but something that he felt I really needed to do. And that was super unique. I mean, I've never had anyone in my life, you know, set that aside for me, which was wild. The thing with Jay that's, you know, that fits him so well is, you know, I truly believe his ability to balance his life is why he's sitting here today. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, his ability to, you know, influence my balance from 5 years ago, you know, 6 years ago, when I first met Jay, was he was less concerned about my ability to go execute on a business plan or an initiative or a vision and how we were going to go and dominate some marketplace. It was like, how are we going to do it so that at the end of these 5 years, we're still friends and that you're not burnt out and you want to do it again. And so, you know, I think True Balance and what he's doing will enable a lot of people to do that. When Jay got off stage today, he said, yeah, you know, thanks for coming. And I said, you know, I signed up 6 years ago. It truly is about balance, but I think it's about, you know, he cares. You know, and he can truly see through somebody, whether it's, you know, the impact that they're having in their personal life or it's the success they're striving for in their business life. Jay's the guy that's like, can see through all the bullshit. You know, and he can sit back and say, great facade, agree with a lot of the things you're saying, these are the things you need to be concerned about. And in his speech, he mentioned the potholes and avoiding the potholes. Jay's helped me avoid a lot of potholes already, without even me knowing he told me to avoid them. It's one thing to leave an organization and, you know, still have the relationships inside. It's another thing to leave an organization where the guy who's your, you know, your pillar of influence, he's your, you know, your moral compass, that he's still there for you, even though you're not there anymore. You know, and I even, you know, after leaving, we had many lunches, tons of breakfasts, constantly concerned about everything to do with me, Christian, and, you know, as well as business and how we were making out, but it was more than that. He truly cares. And he's one of those people that when you see him, you can't help but smile. It's like, this guy is so refreshing. He's just, you know, we were there on the weekend walking away from the marina, and my son, after leaving, he goes, Dad, you really look differently at that guy than anyone. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah. He goes, how do you know him? Like, he didn't know the pieces. And my son recognized that he had my undivided attention. And there's nobody left on earth who can do that. One thing that he always instilled in me is, you know, I've always been a flashy guy. I try to be, you know, I have no problem, you know, trying to look better than I am. And he's always been the guy that's always said, it doesn't matter how good you are. People don't care how good you are. And he's always been the one to say, it's about humility. And that was the one thing that I know is in his teachings and a lot of his coaching is going to be, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. And one thing every day that I walk into every business meeting with is, I don't need to be the smartest guy anymore. I just need to surround myself with smart people like Jay did, and the rest will sort itself out.
Bringing things back to the practical and making, some real actions and trying to move things forward. So I think one of his real strengths, right, is taking a challenge and then figuring out, sort of how do we get through it and motivate people with some people, challenge by, sort of yelling, right, and saying, work harder, get more, I need more sales. If you don't get more sales, I might fire you or whatever. And that's just not his approach, right? His approach is, how do we, what do we have that's going well? I know we've got challenges. I know it's not your fault, but we still do have to move it forward, right? So how do we move, work together to move things forward? So,
yes, he has transitioned from being a CEO to being a speaker. I've had an opportunity to bring him in to talk to 7 different CEO or executive peer groups. And he has a tremendously powerful impact on those people. And I think it's for 3 reasons. One, he has the credibility of a CEO. He has done amazing things in terms of transforming companies, adapting to changing technology, and coming out with a highly successful outcome. But secondly, he has that powerful personal story in which he was humbled, had to kind of totally regather himself and learn the lessons that he preaches in terms of how do you overcome adversity. So you've got those 2 very powerful pieces, and then you couple it with a very engaging, authentic, sincere style, and he knocks the ball out of the park when it comes to being a great speaker. Well, I think part of it is that when you look at Jay, you see just a very successful CEO. He looks the part, right? Handsome guy, confident. On the surface, he looks as though he walked out of a magazine and lived a charmed life. And so you have that contrasted with the pain, the suffering, and the struggle that he had in terms of kind of bouncing back from tragedy. And then you add that to here are the 5 kind of specific ways or definers that you need to face if you want to continue to be not only successful but fulfilled throughout your life. What's unique about Jay is not only is he a great inspirational, engaging speaker, but that's just the platform to help him really make significant change in the lives of the people he coaches. So Jay is in a position to influence the few that influence the many. And I think he sees that as a golden opportunity to make a huge difference in not only business, but in the lives of those executives and the people that work for them.
I would say, for starters, humility, that the guy is courageous, has very confident, he comes on very strong, but he has a sense of humility where he doesn't bowl you over with it. He's interested in you. He always asks how I'm doing personally before we get into anything professionally. He has the courage to be completely vulnerable in sharing the truth, sharing about him, and what it does is it sets the stage for others. It gives them license to open up, and he just has that natural confidence to do that. I think primarily for the purpose to help other people, and he's doing everything in his power to make a difference in this world in a very humble way. And it's just really neat to see. It's so genuine. That's what I like about him. You know, when you're writing a book or you're putting together a particular program, I mean, it needs to be meaningful to an audience. It needs to be meaningful to a market of people that need what you have to say. And today's world is so crowded with a lot of mediocrity. People get books out, or they become speakers, or they have programs in which they're selling stuff. What Jay is doing is he's offering something that's a service that changes lives. And I think there's a huge difference between just, being in a rubber chicken circuit as a speaker and sharing the truth to people in a way that impacts their lives, that makes a difference. They're brought up, and business leaders are brought up, never show your soft underbelly. And Jay's doing the opposite. He's going, you know what? We're not perfect. No one's perfect. We can connect and we can get better. just like he got a second chance, now he's allowing and facilitating other people getting a second chance. And that's the beauty of his business.